Let me tell you a truth that's shaping 2025. Millionaires are not just working harder, they're not just investing smarter, they are speaking differently, they are commanding the unseen with words that shift timelines. And the results, fast, radical, magnetic, they are saying words that sound simple, but open quantum doors. They're saying things like, I don't chase, I attract. Wealth comes to me because I expect it. The law works for me because I speak it into motion. In 2025, it's no longer about silent hustle. It's about verbal frequency. Words are currency. Beliefs are investments. Declarations are real estate in the invisible world. Here's what millionaires already know. When you speak your wealth into being, your mind and the universe align. When you affirm, command, and act as if money bends to your vibration, this isn't manifestation hype. This is millionaire psychology meeting quantum science. You can keep grinding in silence, or you can start speaking with power. Because every time a millionaire opens their mouth, the universe listens, and now it's your turn. Say it. I am wealthy because I say so. I do not chase money. Money is already mine. Everything I want wants me. This is what 2025 millionaires are saying. In 2025, millionaires are no longer keeping quiet about their dreams. They're not whispering wishes in the dark. They're speaking their reality out loud, clearly, confidently, and with conviction. They've realized that words carry energy, and that spoken language is the first act of creation. What you say becomes a script the universe begins to follow. These individuals have mastered the art of commanding their life through speech. They are intentional with every phrase they say. They don't say, I hope I get rich, or I wish things would get better. No, they say, I am rich, I am powerful, I am a magnet for money. They talk like it's already done. And because they speak with belief, reality bends in their favor. The shift is internal first, but it becomes external quickly. When you start saying things like, everything I touch turns to gold, you don't just say it, you start moving differently. Your posture changes, your decisions change, your energy shifts. These millionaires understand that speech creates behavior, and behavior creates results. They no longer view affirmations as just positive thinking. They treat their spoken words like sacred contracts with the universe. What they declare, they expect. What they expect, they receive. It's not magic, it's mechanics. The subconscious mind hears what is said repeatedly and begins to rewrite identity around those statements. You'll hear them say things like, opportunities come to me daily, or I am the source of wealth and success. These are not empty phrases. These are truth codes that they've chosen to install in their mind. And the mind, once trained to believe, begins to scan the world for ways to fulfill that reality. Most people speak from their current circumstances. They say, I'm broke, or nothing ever works out for me, and wonder why their life doesn't change. But millionaires in 2025 speak from their desired outcome. They say what they want, as if it's already real, and that shifts their vibration instantly. It's a subtle change, but it creates a massive ripple effect. Speaking, I am abundant, programs your nervous system to feel secure. Saying, I am always taken care of, removes anxiety. These statements aren't about delusion. They're about creating a state of being that brings ideas, people, and opportunities into your life. You may notice something else. They don't argue for their limitations. They don't speak defeat. They don't say, this won't work, or I don't know how. They speak solution, power, certainty. That is what keeps their momentum fast and their magnetism high. Because what you repeatedly say becomes what you unconsciously believe. There's no room for weak language in their world. Words like try, maybe, and someday are erased. They speak in absolutes. I will, I am, it is done. This level of speech is a declaration, not a negotiation. They're not waiting for someone to give them permission. They speak it, and then they move forward like it's already theirs. One powerful thing they've realized is that words carry emotional charge. and emotions are what fuel manifestations, so they speak with passion, with feeling, with energy behind every word. When they say, I am rich, it's not just a phrase, it's a vibrational command to the field around them. This is how they stay ahead while others hesitate. While most people speak fear, scarcity, and confusion into the air, these millionaires speak clarity, certainty, and expansion, and that becomes their lived experience. Their environment, their bank account, and their relationships all reflect the frequency of their spoken word. Some of them even set alarms throughout the day, speak affirmations aloud. They speak in the morning. They speak before deals, they speak before bed. They have trained themselves to use their voice as a wealth wand, a direct line to the outcome they desire. They have studied what ancient mystics and modern scientists agree on: the voice carries creation power. In scripture, in energy studies, in manifestation teachings, it all points back to the same truth. In the beginning was the Word. And they've taken that seriously. They speak their beginning before it's visible. And perhaps the most powerful part, they're not waiting for proof. They know that belief comes before evidence, not the other way around. So they speak wealth, success, joy, and power before any of it is seen, because they know the speaking is what brings it into sight. In 2025, wealth is no longer just about bank balances. It's about belief systems. And affirmations have become the daily wealth practice of the rich. Millionaires don't just wake up and check the market. They wake up and check their mindset, and affirmations are the tool they use to condition it. They know that before the money comes, the mind must be aligned. Affirmations are not a secret anymore. They're a daily ritual, spoken aloud, written in journals, repeated in mirrors, recorded into phones. Affirmations have become the language of prosperity. The wealthy use them to override scarcity, reset their energy, and stay calibrated to the frequency of abundance. The reason is simple. You become what you consistently say about yourself. If you repeat "I am abundant" often enough, your subconscious begins to accept it as fact. And once the mind believes something, it begins to organize your habits, emotions, and actions to match that belief. Millionaires use this psychological truth to their advantage. They don't leave their thoughts to chance. They speak power into their day before their day even begins. Money flows to me effortlessly. I attract you opportunities. My success is inevitable. These are not motivational quotes. They are commands, spoken with authority. And that daily repetition builds unshakable inner certainty. These affirmations don't just inspire, they interrupt old patterns. Every time they say, "I am a wealth magnet," it drowns out the old inner critic saying, "You'll never make it." Every time they affirm, "My ideas create millions," it silences the fear of failure. Affirmations become verbal armor that protects their mindset from doubt, fear, and limitation. Millionaires understand that the brain is programmable, and affirmations are the code they input daily. Just as a software developer writes lines of code to create a desired outcome, they speak affirmations to write the program of wealth into their mind. It's intentional, it's deliberate, it's non-negotiable. Some of them even record their affirmations with music and listen to them on repeat. They program their sleep state with affirmations so the subconscious absorbs wealth beliefs overnight. It's not passive. It's not casual. It's a strategic routine they guard with the same intensity as a business plan. Affirmations are no longer viewed as woo, or soft. In 2025, they are seen as mental conditioning, the same way athletes use visualization before competition. These affirmations create clarity, boost confidence, and prime the brain to recognize wealth, building opportunities that others miss. Because here's what they've discovered: your outer world always lags behind your inner world. So they don't wait for the $1,000,000 result before they say, "I'm a millionaire." They say it first. They say it when they're broke. They say it when they're doubting. They say it until the world has no choice but to catch up. And that consistency becomes identity. The repetition rewires the neural pathways in their brain, forming a new self-image. That new self-image, wealthy, powerful, confident, becomes the foundation for every decision they make. Affirmations don't just make them feel good, they make them act bold. You can spot a 2025 millionaire by their language. They don't talk about what they lack. They don't complain about the economy or fear inflation. They speak from faith, not fear. They use affirmations as anchors that keep them grounded in a state of abundance, regardless of what the outside world says. And here's the real secret. They don't just affirm money. They affirm who they are. I am disciplined. I am a visionary. I am unstoppable. Because they know that money doesn't change people. Identity does. Affirmations help them step into the version of themselves that already has everything they desire. The repetition might sound silly to outsiders, but the wealthy don't care how it sounds. They care how it works. They've seen the results. They've watched affirmations turn chaos into clarity, fear into faith, and debt into wealth. They've experienced firsthand how these simple phrases, spoken with belief, change everything. Affirmations in 2025 are as common to millionaires as passwords to a vault. But instead of unlocking doors, they unlock identity, creativity, magnetism, and resilience. And with those qualities active, money has no choice but to respond. Because the moment you speak with power, you become power, and that's what draws wealth in like gravity. In 2025, verbal frequency has become more than just talking positive. Millionaires have begun to understand speech as vibration technology, a real energetic force that either aligns you with wealth or pushes it away. Every word spoken carries a frequency, and that frequency sends a signal to your subconscious mind, to your surroundings, and even into quantum space. When you speak from lack, your life echoes lack. When you speak from power, the world reflects power back. Verbal frequency is now recognized as a tool of alignment, not motivation. Millionaires use their words to line up their emotions, mindset, and actions with the energy of wealth. It's not about fake it till you make it. It's speak it till you feel it and feel it until you become it. They use speech not just to describe their life, but to design it. Their words are not random. They are targeted, tuned, and intentional. Imagine tuning a radio. If you want to hear success, you have to be on the right station. In the same way, the rich speak in tones that match the frequency of success, and that puts them on the same energetic channel as ideas, opportunities, and you connections. It's not mystical, it's magnetic. Your frequency attracts its match, and your voice sets that frequency in motion. These individuals don't just speak affirmations for fun, they speak them as frequency generators. I am wealthy, I am wise, I am ready. Those words are like vocal instruments sending sound waves into their environment, and the law of resonance kicks in. What you consistently vibrate, you begin to attract. The right deals, the right clients, the right timing. It all begins with how they speak. What most people don't realize is that your tone carries as much power as your words. Millionaires speak with certainty, even when the outcome is uncertain. They don't mumble their goals, they say them with fire. Their words are full of emotional voltage. Because it's the feeling behind the words that makes them effective, a cold affirmation is weak, but a hot declaration, spoken with confidence, that changes everything. Verbal alignment means speaking from the future, not the past. Millionaires aren't echoing their childhood wounds or last year's failures. They're broadcasting their desired reality. I'm already there. It's already mine. This is who I am now. They speak from the identity of someone who already has it, already does it, already knows it. That level of speech aligns the body, the brain, and the environment in one unified energetic force. And because they understand that emotion is energy, they use verbal frequency to regulate their inner state. If anxiety creeps in, they speak peace. If doubt shows up, they speak certainty. Words become tools to realign their vibration at any moment. This gives them control, not over the world, but over themselves, and self-mastery in the world of wealth is everything. They also recognize that silence can be dangerous. Where there is no directed speech, default thinking takes over, and the default is usually fear, doubt, and limitation. That's why verbal alignment is so critical. By speaking out loud, clearly, and repeatedly, they override the noise and set a frequency that drowns out chaos. Their homes, offices, and journals are full of phrases that reinforce alignment. Sticky notes, mantras, recorded audio, even daily mirror talk routines. These are not just habits, they are frequency anchors, because the more often they speak in the energy of wealth, the more they stabilize at that level. Over time, it becomes their new baseline. In 2025, the new wealthy don't just hustle. They don't just invest. They tune themselves like instruments, and speech is their tuning fork. Every word is a vibration. Every sentence is a signal, and the frequency you broadcast determines the future you experience. Millionaires in 2025 operate on a deeper understanding of the world, that everything is energy, and words are one of the most concentrated, direct forms of energy there is. To them, speaking isn't just expression, it's transmission. Every time they speak, they are sending energy into the field around them. And because energy is never wasted, every word has an effect, seen or unseen. They no longer treat language as just communication. They treat it as creation. When they say, "I am wealthy," they're not just making a statement. They are releasing an energetic blueprint into the world. And that blueprint begins to shape circumstances, open opportunities, and bend probabilities in their favor. This belief isn't spiritual fluff, it's reinforced by science and ancient wisdom alike. Quantum physics teaches that energy responds to observation and intention. Mystical traditions teach that the word is the seed of form. These high-level thinkers have bridged the two, realizing that when words are combined with belief, they become generators of real outcomes. Think about it, energy moves through sound. Sound is vibration. Words spoken with intention create vibrations that ripple through reality. The wealthy speak with energy behind every word because they know the ripple effect is real. They don't waste words. They don't casually curse their lives by saying "I can't" or "I'm broke." They speak only what they want to expand. When they speak wealth, they're not begging for it. They're energizing it. They say, "Money flows to me." And they say it with clarity, not confusion. They say, "I'm aligned with abundance." And their voice matches the emotion of someone who already believes it. That emotional charge turns the statement into a frequency that draws matching realities. They know the power of spoken energy because they've seen the results. Deals appear after powerful declarations. Clients show up after days of consistent affirmations. Creative ideas flow after intense verbal intention setting. Over and over again, their words lead to visible shifts, so they've made word energy part of their strategy. This is why careless talk has no place in their lives. You won't hear them say, "I'm tired of this life," or "nothing ever works." They know that even jokes, sarcasm, or emotional rants can send the wrong energy signal. Instead, they speak in alignment with their vision, even when their current situation contradicts it. To them, the energetic quality of a word is more important than its grammar. It's not about fancy vocabulary. It's about vibrational accuracy. A short phrase like "I'm ready" can carry more creative force than an entire motivational speech if spoken with conviction. They've trained themselves to feel the weight behind each word. This is why millionaires in 2025 often pause before speaking. They measure their words the way a skilled artist selects their brushstroke. They understand that language is a sculptor of experience, and that careless speech can undo hours or even days of energetic momentum. Every word must match their future, not their fear. They've also learned that spoken energy stacks over time. Just like working out builds muscle, speaking intentional energy builds vibrational strength. The more often they speak wealth, power, peace, and certainty, the more those energies become dominant in their field, and the more effortlessly they begin to manifest. The way they speak about problems is also different. Instead of saying, "This is a disaster," they might say, "This is a shift leading to something greater." They don't lie to themselves. They reframe the energy. They shape the narrative in a way that preserves momentum. Because they believe energy obeys focus, and focus is directed by words, this approach makes them magnetic. People feel their presence when they speak. There's something unshakable in their tone because they've infused it with clarity, conviction, and alignment. Their energy speaks before their resume does, and that's why doors open before they even knock. They're also deeply aware that their words don't just affect their own field, but others too. When they speak wealth into their team rises. When they speak expansion into a room, the energy shifts. They use their verbal energy to elevate, not just themselves, but everything around them. They don't compete. They command through coherence. Every sentence becomes a spell, either casting limitation or liberation. And these millionaires have chosen to become master spellcasters of success, knowing that words are energy, and energy always moves something. They don't wait for the world to change. They speak it into motion, word by word. In 2025, millionaires are not waiting for their bank account to confirm their wealth. They act as if it's already done. This mindset isn't about pretending. It's about embodying the energy of the future before it arrives. They've discovered a powerful universal principle. When you act as if something is already true, your reality begins to reshape around that assumption. Acting as if is about energetic alignment, not fantasy. These individuals walk, talk, and decide from the perspective of someone who already has what they want. They don't ask, "Can I afford to think this way?" They say, "I must think this way," because wealth responds to identity. They've understood that your actions reflect your beliefs, and beliefs create outcomes. This is why they don't wait for evidence before they change their posture. They speak with confidence before the money arrives. They invest in themselves before the world sees their worth. They dress, speak, and move like someone who is already at the level they're targeting, because identity leads behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. Most people think, "I'll believe it when I see it." Millionaires flip that script. They believe it until they see it, and their belief isn't passive, it's embodied. They don't hope they'll succeed. They behave as though success is already inevitable. And in doing so, they create momentum that most people never reach. When they walk into a room, they don't apologize for their dreams. They don't lower their frequency to match fear. Instead, they raise the tone of the room with certainty. People can feel when someone has stepped into their future self. It's magnetic, it's undeniable, and it comes from fully acting in alignment with the wealth they've claimed. This mindset affects every area of their lives. They spend money wisely, but not fearfully. They know that someone aligned with abundance doesn't hoard out of fear. They circulate with trust. They bless their spending, speak over their income, and give generously, knowing that wealth expands when it flows. When making decisions, they don't hesitate from lack. They ask, "What would a millionaire version of me do?" And they follow that answer. Whether it's in business, networking, or health, they take aligned action based on the version of themselves who already succeeded. That self becomes the GPS. Acting as if is not arrogance. It's energetic authority. It's stepping into a role before it's officially handed to you and claiming your place at the table before someone invites you. Millionaires don't wait for permission. They give it to themselves. That alone separates them from the masses. They carry themselves with gratitude, not desperation. They say things like, "Thank you for the wealth that is already mine," not "Please let me be rich." That subtle shift in language comes from a deep internal decision that they are already becoming what they desire. They treat their vision as fact, even in private moments. When they're alone, they act the part. Their thoughts are rehearsed in abundance. Their plans are made with clarity. They visualize deals, homes, and breakthroughs with emotional realism, and then take action as if those things are en route. Because to them they are, acting as if also means expecting good things. They expect favor, they expect miracles, they expect timing to work in their favor, not because they're entitled, but because they're aligned. Their level of expectation sets the standard for what life brings them. When you expect wealth, you start recognizing doors that others walk right past. They've built habits that reflect their future, not their past. They wake up early, plan like CEO, speak like leaders, and protect their energy like visionaries. None of these actions came after wealth arrived. They were cultivated long before. That's how wealth knew where to land. They created a life that was already prepared for it. Even when challenges show up, they handle them differently. They don't panic. They ask, "What does my millionaire self do here?" And that question alone often unlocks the wisdom they need. They've trained themselves to respond from the future, not react from the fear of the present. And perhaps most importantly, they've made acting as if their new normal. It's no longer something they do when they feel motivated. It's a lifestyle standard. They've stepped into the character of their wealth identity, and now that role fits like a second skin. Every move they make reinforces the truth they've already accepted. They are wealthy now. Millionaires in 2025 understand a powerful truth. The subconscious mind is the master controller of your behavior, your patterns, and ultimately, your results. And the fastest way to influence it isn't through logic, it's through repetition and emotion-laced language. This is why speaking wealth daily has become a cornerstone of how they reprogram their mind for success. They know that the subconscious doesn't care whether something is true or not. It accepts whatever is repeated often enough, especially if it's said with emotion and certainty. So when they speak statements like "I am wealthy" or "money flows to me easily," they're not just trying to feel good. They are instructing their subconscious to create alignment with those words. Most people try to change their lives with conscious effort alone. But that only accounts for a fraction of their results. The subconscious, which runs up to 95% of daily behavior, holds core beliefs formed through past repetition, trauma, influence, and identity. Millionaires speak to that deeper part of themselves, because that's where lasting change begins. When they speak wealth, the subconscious listens and begins shifting thoughts, reactions, and focus accordingly. For example, if they repeat, "I attract you opportunities," the mind starts scanning the environment to confirm that belief. It notices people, patterns, and possibilities that align with that statement. This is reticular activation in action. They understand that just thinking about wealth is not enough. Thoughts come and go. But when you speak wealth out loud, especially with conviction, you engage multiple senses. You hear yourself. You feel the vibration in your throat. You give sound and form to an idea, and that multiplies its impact on the subconscious. This is why millionaires in 2025 don't just write affirmations. They declare them with power. They create affirmations like mantras. Some even shout them during workouts, speak them into the mirror, or record them on loop to play while they sleep. Every method is designed to saturate the subconscious with a new belief system. They know that the subconscious mind doesn't respond to force. It responds to consistency and clarity. When you speak a wealth affirmation once, it might bounce off old programming. But when you speak it every day for 21, 30, 60 days, your subconscious begins to accept it as truth. Once accepted, it rewires behavior. Suddenly, they find themselves making bolder decisions, having more courage, speaking up in rooms they used to shrink in, saying no to low-value distractions. Not because they consciously planned every step, but because the subconscious was activated and recoded to match a wealthier, more powerful identity. They understand that every spoken word is a suggestion to the mind. "I can't afford this," tells the subconscious that money is always out of reach. "Money always finds me," tells the subconscious to look for flow, ease, and resourcefulness. This is why they eliminate disempowering language, because every word teaches the brain how to behave. They use this power in moments of doubt. When fear creeps in, they don't argue with it. They override it by speaking a better reality. "I am safe, I am supported, I am chosen for wealth." These phrases anchor their emotional state and signal the subconscious to remain calm and solution-focused. They even speak wealth when no one's listening, in the car, while walking, before sleep, during meditation. They understand that speaking wealth is not a show, it's a private activation ritual. The goal is not to convince others. It's to transform their own inner dialogue so deeply that wealth becomes a natural extension of who they are. The process works because the subconscious is always listening, and it obeys what's repeated with emotion. The more they speak in alignment with their future, the more the subconscious prepares to match it with behaviors, ideas, and circumstances. Their life starts moving in the direction of their dominant declarations. This is how self-sabotage gets replaced with self-support. Instead of shrinking back from risk, their subconscious begins nudging them toward opportunity. Instead of procrastinating, it moves them into bold action. Instead of doubting their worth, they begin to speak and act as someone who deserves to be rich. Speaking wealth is no longer a trend for the successful. It's a neural training system. It's their tool for rewiring identity, reshaping focus, and commanding inner power. And every time they say, "I am abundant," they're not just speaking, they are sending clear, repeated instructions to the mind that this is now the standard. In 2025, millionaires have become masters of perception, and they've learned that words are the lens through which we see the world. Every sentence we speak is like a brushstroke painting how we view reality. And over time, those brushstrokes become beliefs, and those beliefs become the world we live in. That's why they protect their language like they protect their assets, because the wrong words can destroy fortunes before they're even built. They understand that perception isn't passive, it's created, moment by moment, through internal narration. When someone constantly says, "Nothing ever works out for me," they're not just venting, they're training their brain to view life through the lens of disappointment. That lens filters out opportunity. It hides solutions, it magnifies problems, words become mental architecture, and millionaires choose to build structures of strength, not scarcity. Every phrase spoken either expands or contracts their perception. When they say, "I always win," their brain starts scanning for evidence to confirm that. When they say, "I'm unlucky," their perception filters out blessings. This is the confirmation bias at work. Whatever story you tell, your mind begins to validate. Millionaires use this to their advantage by telling better stories out loud. They use language that widens possibilities, not limits them. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," they say, "This is making me stronger." Instead of "I don't know how," they say, "I'm figuring it out fast." Those slight changes in speech don't just change mood. They change how reality is interpreted, which in turn affects the outcomes they experience. They've realized that your perception of reality is far more important than the facts. Two people can be in the same room, hear the same words, face the same challenge, and walk away with completely different conclusions. Why? Because words frame the experience. The one who spoke strength will act in strength. The one who spoke failure will see more reasons to fail. This is why millionaires in 2025 speak words that match the reality they want, not the one they fear. They don't describe their day as stressful, they describe it as full of momentum. They don't call themselves overwhelmed, they say they're leveling up fast. It may sound exaggerated to others, but to them, it's strategic framing, a way to keep perception aligned with abundance and growth. Even when things go wrong, their language stays in alignment. They don't say, everything's falling apart. They say, everything is being rearranged for something greater. It's not denial, it's conscious framing. They speak from a higher perspective because they know perception determines emotional state, and emotional state determines decisions. Those decisions, made from positive perception, shape habits, relationships, and opportunities. Speaking, I am supported, leads to confidence. Speaking, I always find a way, leads to creativity. These subtle phrases become the internal GPS that drives actions without needing to force motivation. Their lives flow in the direction of the language they live by. This is why they eliminate negative self-talk immediately. They don't joke about being broke. They don't insult themselves, even in humor. They know that every time you say something, you reinforce perception, and that perception either lifts you up or locks you in. They are careful not to imprison themselves with casual words. They've trained themselves to speak solutions instead of problems. When something breaks down, they don't say, "This always happens to me." They say, "This is being resolved quickly." This mindset shift creates a sense of control, which leads to faster solutions, calmer energy, and ultimately, better results. Because perception isn't just mental, it's behavioral. When you change how you describe life, you change how you show up in life. Millionaires act differently because they speak differently, which shapes how they perceive challenges, people, money, and time. Their language programs their emotional responses in advance. They don't get knocked off center easily because their perception is framed with power. They often repeat identity-based affirmations like, "I'm a leader," "I'm the answer," or "I bring value everywhere I go." These aren't ego statements, they're anchors for perspective. The more they speak from a place of identity and confidence, the more their reality aligns with that inner vision. People treat you how you treat yourself, and perception begins with self-perception. Even when others around them speak fear, they don't join the frequency. They don't agree with group complaints or victim language. They quietly shift the room by speaking vision instead of limitation. Because they know that whoever frames the moment controls the energy of the space, and those who can shape perception are the ones who shape culture, business, and results. They've made it a lifelong practice to use language not just to express, but to direct. Every sentence becomes a steering wheel. Every phrase is a choice. And by choosing empowering, expansive words, they consistently tilt their perception upward. And with it, their entire reality shifts in their favor. In 2025, millionaires don't see declarations as mere motivational phrases. They understand them as activations of spiritual law-spoken triggers that set powerful, invisible forces in motion. Every declaration they make is not a request, but a command, a decree made in full faith that the universe, God, or the energetic field must respond accordingly. This understanding goes beyond psychology. It touches on divine alignment. When they declare, "I am wealthy," they aren't hoping the world will listen. They believe the laws that govern reality, whether called universal law, the law of assumption, or divine order, hear that declaration as law. Spoken words, especially those repeated with emotion, become written contracts in the unseen realm. Florence Scovel Shinn taught over a century ago that your word is your wand, and in 2025, this teaching is finally being fully understood and practiced. Declarations aren't positive thinking. They are spiritual acts that claim territory in the invisible and expect the visible to catch up. It's not about desire, it's about authority. These millionaires don't beg for wealth. They speak it into spiritual law. They say, "Divine riches are mine now," and believe that once declared, the process of fulfillment has already begun. They treat declarations like planting seeds in a spiritual field, seeds that cannot help but grow as long as they are watered with faith and consistency. They don't speak these declarations casually or softly. They speak them with vibrational certainty. "I now receive unlimited wealth." Everything I declare returns multiplied. These aren't just hopes. They are spiritual affirmations backed by inner knowing. Once spoken, they let the law go to work, just as confidently as a farmer expects crops from good soil. Declarations aren't limited by circumstance. In fact, they are most powerful when spoken in contradiction to current conditions. Millionaires declare wealth when things feel scarce. They declare peace when chaos surrounds them. That's how they shift timelines. They declare from the reality they choose, not the one they see. They've learned that the spiritual realm responds to frequency, not desperation. Declarations spoken with fear or doubt carry little power, but declarations spoken with calm conviction resonate like tuning forks through the energy field. They vibrate into every cell of the body and into the fabric of the world, magnetizing the matching experience. They use declarations to cancel limiting beliefs and replace them with divine truth. If a thought arises that says, "You're not worthy," they declare, "I am chosen, I am appointed, I am wealthy by divine right." This isn't self-help, it's spiritual warfare through words. They refuse to let any thought contradict what they've already declared. Declarations also bring clarity and alignment. By declaring what they expect, they simplify their vision and direct their energy. Instead of trying 100 things, they align to one statement: "Everything I do prospers." That becomes the core belief, and all their strategies, decisions, and actions line up under it. Some even go as far as building their day around specific declarations. Morning routines begin with, "Today I receive unexpected income." Before meetings, "I speak with divine confidence." Before bed, "I sleep in abundance and rise in victory." These words shape the spiritual climate around their lives, creating favorable conditions for wealth to flourish. They understand that heaven and earth respond to voice. From ancient scripture to modern manifestation, the pattern is clear. What is spoken has creative power. "Let there be" has always been the formula for creation. Millionaires in 2025 have taken that sacred truth and applied it boldly to their lives and businesses. Declarations also help them anchor identity. Instead of saying, "I want to be rich," they say, "I am rich in every way." That declaration rewrites self-image. Identity shifts are where real wealth begins, not in the market, but in the mirror. They use spiritual law to upgrade identity, and from that identity, everything else changes. They also teach declarations to their teams, families, and communities, because they know this isn't just about personal power, but collective elevation. When declarations become normal speech in a household or a company, the energy rises, the results multiply, and the atmosphere transforms. It becomes a space where spiritual law is in constant motion. Ultimately, every declaration becomes a living frequency, a statement spoken into the divine field, received by spiritual law, and responded to in form. These millionaires understand that speech isn't just for communication, it's for creation, and declarations are the highest level of verbal creation available to human beings. In 2025, the world's wealthiest individuals are shifting the narrative. Wealth is no longer a reward for burnout, but a reflection of alignment. While hustle culture still dominates the internet, true millionaires are quietly operating on a higher frequency, one built not on chaos, but on calmness, clarity, and inner harmony. The myth that endless grind guarantees success is being exposed, and in its place, a new truth is rising. Energy alignment is more powerful than effort alone. These high-level earners have discovered that hustle without harmony leads to burnout, not breakthroughs. They know the feeling of working 14-hour days, grinding through checklists, only to feel more disconnected, more exhausted, and less wealthy, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. That's why they no longer chase wealth with force. Instead, they attract it through flow. Harmony doesn't mean doing less. It means doing the right things at the right frequency. It means only saying yes to what matches your energy and vision. It means refusing urgency that's based in fear and instead creating space for inspired action that feels magnetic rather than mandatory. This kind of intentional living naturally opens the door to wealth. They've realized that the frequency of wealth feels like peace, not panic. When they're in alignment, they make sharper decisions, attract better opportunities, and operate in their zone of genius. Their mind is clearer. Their intuition is louder. Their timing is impeccable. Wealth flows fastest to those who are emotionally and energetically calibrated to receive it. These millionaires begin their days differently, not with frantic rushing, but with rituals of grounding, meditation, breathwork, journaling, silence. They tune into their own frequency before touching the world's chaos. This inner attunement is not a luxury, it's a wealth strategy, because when your nervous system is calm, your receiving channel is open. They also avoid people and environments that disrupt their harmony. They're no longer available for drama, gossip, fear, mongering, or toxic urgency. Their circle is curated with precision. Only those who amplify peace, vision, and faith remain. They know that the frequency of those around you becomes the frequency of your results. They've traded productivity for energetic potency. They no longer measure success by how much they did today, but by how deeply aligned they were while doing it. A single aligned hour is worth more than a full day of distracted hustle. They've made peace their priority because they understand it's the portal to power. Even in business, they lead from harmony. Sales calls aren't desperate. They're deeply connected. Launches don't feel heavy. They feel like divine assignments. These millionaires aren't pushing people. They're inviting the right ones into resonance. The wealth comes not from convincing, but from being so aligned that others can feel it through the screen. Their calendar isn't packed with noise, it's organized around energy peaks. They work when they're most clear, rest when their body asks, and move in cycles that support expansion, not exhaustion. They don't fight time, they cooperate with it. That harmony with time creates a sense of timelessness, and in that space, miracles move quickly. They've also released the guilt that comes with rest. In hustle culture, rest is seen as weakness, but in harmony culture, rest is sacred reset. It's where answers arise, ideas download, confidence returns. Their wealth doesn't come from being constantly on. It comes from knowing when to pause, listen, and recalibrate. These millionaires invest in environments that support harmony, hive homes, nature retreats, aligned mentors. They understand that where you live and work either adds to or subtracts from your frequency, so they design their spaces for flow. Their surroundings reflect their desired state, organized, elevated, and rich in frequency. Even their language reflects harmony. They don't say, "I'm grinding," or "I'm barely keeping up." They say, "I'm in flow," "I'm guided," or "things are unfolding perfectly," because they know that what you speak becomes what you feel, and what you feel is what you attract. Their vocabulary is curated to mirror the vibration of wealth. They've made peace with the idea that more isn't always better. More money doesn't require more hours. More success doesn't demand more sacrifice. The new model of wealth is not about doing more. It's about being more aligned. And in that alignment, things happen faster, smoother, and with far greater joy. Above all, they treat harmony not as a reward, but as the requirement. It's not something you earn after success. It's the frequency that creates success. They don't wait to feel calm once the money comes in. They get calm first, and then the money comes in. They live as proof that harmony is not the opposite of hustle, it's the elevation of it. In 2025, the most magnetic millionaires have shifted their questions entirely. They're no longer obsessed with the how of money-making. They're focused on the who. They are becoming to receive it effortlessly. They've realized that chasing money as a thing outside themselves is a low-frequency game. The real power lies in raising the frequency within, so money naturally arrives as a match. Instead of endlessly Googling strategies, copying trends, or stressing over the next market move, they pause and go inward. They ask themselves, what version of me does money respond to? It's not a tactical shift, it's a vibrational one. They know now that money doesn't respond to effort first. It responds to energy, identity, and internal permission. They've discovered that wealth isn't just earned, it's received. And the capacity to receive is not found in more hustle, but in expanding the nervous system, healing the subconscious, and upgrading the self-image. Every belief, every thought, every expectation sends out a signal. That signal is what wealth responds to. So they've stopped tweaking their funnels and started tuning their frequency. They've become scientists of their own inner state. When things feel blocked, they don't ask what tactic is missing. They ask, what part of me is resisting abundance? They look at their own emotional patterns, their stories around worth, their hidden fear of success. They treat money not as a math problem, but as a mirror reflecting their inner world. That's why journaling, affirmations, meditation, and visualization aren't fluff to them. These are now tools of energetic recalibration. They're how these millionaires rewire their minds to expect, accept, and hold greater amounts of wealth. The more they expand their frequency, the more doors open. It's no longer magic, it's mechanics. They operate on a principle that your external reality can never exceed your internal thermostat. If you haven't done the inner expansion to receive $100 zero days, you'll sabotage it or repel it, even if it lands in your lap. So their question is always, can I energetically hold the level of wealth I desire? And if not, their work becomes expansion, not effort. This doesn't mean they're passive. It means their actions flow from a higher place. When their frequency is aligned, their inspired actions are bold, magnetic, and wildly effective. They stop trying to force their way through business problems and instead listen. What's the next aligned step from this version of me? Money shows up fastest for the aligned version, not the anxious one. They also understand that the frequency of receiving is not rooted in need. When you ask, how do I make more money? From a place of lack or fear, the answer will come back distorted or blocked. But when you ask from a place of expansion, how can I hold more joy, more flow, more value? Money flows as a byproduct of your rising vibration. This is why they focus so much on their emotional set point. If their dominant vibration is guilt, shame, or scarcity, no tactic will outperform it. But if their baseline becomes trust, joy, gratitude, and certainty, then wealth becomes a magnetized response. They aren't pursuing wealth. They're attracting it through frequency compatibility. In business, they build not for performance alone, but for resonance. They create brands, offers, and content that reflect the version of themselves that is already living in the overflow. They don't make decisions to survive. They make decisions that stretch their receiving identity. Every move becomes a match to the future, not a reaction to the past. They've also let go of the need to deserve wealth. Instead of trying to prove their worth through work, they've accepted that abundance is a birthright, and receiving it is simply a matter of frequency alignment. They know now that when they feel good, clear, aligned, and certain, money comes faster. So their real job is vibrational stewardship, not grinding harder. They also stopped comparing themselves to others because they've realized that frequency is personal. One person may make millions from stillness, another through expression. So instead of asking what's working for them, they ask, what feels most aligned for me? That question leads them to their own energetic lane where momentum is natural. They track their growth not just in dollars, but in how expanded they feel. Am I thinking bigger? Am I relaxing into abundance? Am I allowing ease, grace, and pleasure while receiving? These are the new metrics of wealth frequency, and as they expand, the money expands too, because it always was, a mirror, not a reward. To them, wealth is not a target, it's a frequency of being, and every day they wake up not asking, how do I chase more, but rather, how do I rise to meet what's already waiting for me? In that question lies the code. Money is not something you get. It's something you align with and allow to flow in effortlessly. There comes a moment when the wealthy stop running. They stop sprinting after money as if it's running away from them. In 2025, the most magnetic millionaires are no longer in pursuit of wealth. They've become the embodiment of it. They don't chase the bag recognizes them. It's not about pursuit, it's about identity and alignment. The turning point happens when they realize that the chase itself carries desperation. That energy of constantly hunting money implies that they don't already have it, and that signal, consciously or subconsciously, pushes it further away. So they flipped the question. Instead of how do I find money, they asked, who must I become for money to find me? This new mindset becomes the key to everything. They realize that money flows to identity. Not hustle, not desperation, not overthinking, but to the self-image that confidently expects wealth as a natural expression of who they are. The moment they fully believe, I am someone who money flows to, the outer world catches up to reflect it. Becoming that version of themselves isn't about faking it. It's about remembering. It's about removing the layers of fear, shame, doubt, and scarcity that blocked the truth all along. It's stepping into the energy of certainty, ease, and overflow, not later, but now. Because they've learned that money responds fastest to energetic readiness, not time served. This identity upgrade doesn't come from more certifications, longer hours, or outside approval. It's an internal shift. They stop begging to be seen and start owning their presence. They walk differently, speak with more certainty, create from their soul, and that quiet confidence sends out a signal. I am already wealthy in identity. Therefore, wealth must match me. They start noticing how money responds to energy. When they're grounded, joyful, and aligned, opportunities flood in. People want to work with them. Their inbox is full. Their offers sell with ease. But when they slip into neediness or force, everything stalls. So they commit to being the calm within the storm, the version of themselves that money finds irresistible. Instead of proving themselves to others, they impress their own subconscious. They speak affirmations not to convince the world, but to remind their inner world that wealth is their natural state. They visualize with emotion. They act with intention. They embody abundance before the numbers show it, because they know the numbers always follow belief. They also clean up their environment to match their new identity. Their home reflects order, beauty, elevation. Their wardrobe upgrades, not to show off, but to feel the frequency of wealth daily. They curate their routines to signal to their brain, this is who I am now. And over time, their entire outer world reorganizes itself around this identity. These individuals understand that you attract what you are, not what you want. If you want to be a magnet for wealth, you can't live in the vibration of lack. So they stop waiting for the money to arrive to feel abundant. They feel abundant first. The emotions of the rich version of themselves become the anchor: joy, power, peace, and certainty. They also stop apologizing for their desires. They no longer shrink themselves to be relatable. They don't play small to fit in. Instead, they expand unapologetically into the version of themselves who knows their worth. That bolder self doesn't wait for permission. That self doesn't hustle for scraps. That self speaks, moves, and builds as if wealth is already here, because in essence it is. They treat every choice, every yes, and every no as a vote for the reality they are claiming. They don't entertain distractions, drama, or scarcity-minded conversations. They protect their energy like millionaires protect investments, because they know what you tolerate shapes who you become, and who you become dictates what you attract. They learn to listen to their inner guidance, not just external advice. What worked for someone else may not match their frequency, so they tune out the noise and tune in to the wisdom within. The wealthiest people in 2025 are the ones who trust themselves completely, because they know their alignment is more valuable than anyone else's blueprint. Their goals shift from making X amount to becoming the one who naturally receives X amount. They stop chasing outcomes and start mastering states. Their inner world becomes the blueprint for their outer results. They are no longer shocked by miracles. They expect them, because that's what happens when identity and intention align perfectly. So day by day, decision by decision, they shape a version of themselves that money wants to be around. They no longer run after it. They radiate such power, presence, and purpose that wealth finds them without effort. And in that magnetic identity, they finally understand that money was never the goal. It was always the reflection of who they decided to become. The new millionaires of 2025 have discovered the ultimate bank account, their inner world. They've realized that before wealth shows up in the digits of their accounts, it begins in the language of their thoughts. The way they speak to themselves is no longer random. Every inner dialogue is coded to expand, attract, and amplify wealth. Their self-talk is no longer casual. It's intentional financial architecture. They no longer treat their thoughts as harmless or fleeting. They understand that every belief they rehearse becomes a part of their energetic bank balance. When they catch themselves thinking, "That's too expensive," they don't just brush it off, they rewrite it. They say, "Money is flowing and I get to have what I desire." This mental correction isn't fantasy. It's neurological rewiring. They've become stewards of their words because they know words don't just describe reality. They create it. To them, every sentence is a seed. Speaking scarcity, that's a withdrawal. Speaking overflow, that's a deposit. So they've trained themselves to speak in ways that build their wealth frequency, not drain it. Their vocabulary is filled with power, possibility, and wealth alignment. They no longer joke about being broke, overwhelmed, or unlucky. Even in humor, they don't allow energy leaks. They've come to understand that the subconscious mind doesn't understand sarcasm. It only receives repetition. So every time they say, "I can't afford that," they're stamping limitation into their nervous system. They've replaced it with, "I'm choosing alignment," or "That's not a priority." Yet, their affirmations are not robotic. They're deep inner agreements. When they say, "I am wealthy," they don't mean someday. They mean right now in frequency. Their bodies begin to believe it. Their reality begins to organize around it. They speak it with conviction until their bank account catches up. The words lead, the results follow in every conversation, with themselves or others. They choose words that elevate. Instead of saying, "Business is slow," they say, "I'm calibrating for my next leap." Instead of, "I hope it works," they say, "I trust the process." These micro shifts in language begin to bend reality, because the one who speaks like wealth is already here becomes the one who receives it. Even when setbacks happen, they don't use defeatist language. They don't say, "It's not working." They say, "This is a redirection into something even better." Their words don't spiral downward, they spiral upward. They hold a mental bank account of wealth-coded phrases, and they spend them wisely. Their self-image is maintained through daily deposits of empowering language. "I deserve to be well paid." "I am safe receiving massive wealth." "Money flows to me because of who I am, not just what I do." These become mantras that not only shift mood, but reprogram belief systems. The more they repeat them, the deeper the coding goes. They also audit their surroundings. Conversations filled with fear, gossip, or scarcity, they opt out. They don't engage in, "Can you believe how bad the economy is?" Instead, they ask, "What can we create next?" They don't entertain doubt-based language from others. They choose circles where wealth, coded language is the norm, not the exception. Visualization and scripting have become part of their routine, not as hype, but as blueprints for neural alignment. They write, speak, and rehearse realities that match their desired future. Their journals are filled with statements like, "Money loves me," Clients find me easily, and every day I expand my capacity to receive more. These are not dreams. These are instructions to the universe. They've also trained their emotional tone to match their words. It's not enough to say, "I'm abundant," with a doubtful voice. They embody the tone of someone who knows. Confidence, joy, gratitude. These are the emotional currencies that power their spoken wealth codes. It's not just what they say, it's how they feel while saying it. They've turned their inner voice into a mentor instead of a critic. When fear arises, they don't scold themselves. They guide the voice back with questions like, "What would the wealthy version of me say about this?" Or "How can I reframe this into power?" This inner leadership is what sets them apart from those still chasing wealth externally. Money to them is responsive, not just to action, but to vibration. And vibration is maintained through thoughts and language. So they treat their inner conversation like an investment strategy. They know that the compound interest of empowered thoughts pays off in real dollars, real growth, and real freedom. That's why they guard it like a sacred vault. They've accepted the truth that wealth begins with words, not just spoken aloud, but whispered internally when no one's watching. That voice that says, "You've got this, it's happening, overflow is your natural state." That's the frequency of money itself. They've stopped waiting to feel rich after the money comes. They've started feeling rich now and letting the money chase that energy home. There was a time when all they could think about was time, how fast they could get rich, how soon they could quit their job, how many weeks until their breakthrough. But something shifted in the minds of today's millionaires. The obsession with "how long will it take?" was replaced with a much more transformational question: who do I need to become to make this inevitable? That shift didn't just change their mindset, it changed their destiny. They realized that asking "how long will it take?" is a scarcity question rooted in impatience and doubt. It implies they're far from the result, that the goal is outside of them. But asking "who do I need to become?" turns the focus inward. It acknowledges that time doesn't create results, identity does. Who you are determines what you attract, hold, and multiply. This new question opened doors that time never could. Instead of trying to rush the process, they started refining the person going through it. They stopped trying to skip steps. They started mastering them, because they realized that you can't speed up a transformation you're resisting. Becoming the version of yourself that can handle millions is the real shortcut. They looked in the mirror, not at the calendar. They asked, "Am I operating from faith or fear today? Do I speak and move like someone who is already wealthy? Do I treat my business, my energy, my time, like someone who values results?" These questions created daily internal accountability, which produced external acceleration. They stopped being obsessed with deadlines and started being obsessed with disciplines. They knew that the $1,000,000 version of themselves doesn't wait to feel motivated. That version is consistent, decisive, and focused. So they aligned their daily choices with that future self, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. The old mindset was all about getting there. The new mindset was about embodying there. They asked, "How does the wealthy version of me walk into a room? How do they handle obstacles? How do they react to rejection or slow seasons?" And they practice those behaviors now, not later, because becoming precedes receiving. Always, they learned that you don't attract what you want. You attract what you're a match for. So instead of waiting for success to make them feel confident, they worked on feeling confident now. Instead of waiting for proof, they started acting from faith, and in doing so, they collapsed timelines because alignment speeds up everything. They began investing in identity, not just strategies. Courses, coaching, books. They chose ones that expanded their inner capacity, not just external tactics. They realized that the best funnel, the best business model, the best audience won't work if it lands in the hands of someone who still doubts themselves. But when identity is solid, even average tools create extraordinary results. They no longer asked, "What's the fastest way?" Instead, they asked, "What's the most aligned way?" Because speed without self-awareness leads to burnout. But alignment creates results that stick. The right path isn't always the quickest. It's the one that turns you into the person who can keep what they receive. And they became okay with not knowing how everything would unfold. That was the old them needing control, needing guarantees, needing it all mapped out. The new them trusted the process, trusted the pull of their vision, trusted that by becoming the person their dreams required, the path would reveal itself one aligned step at a time. Even their conversations changed. Instead of complaining about how long it's taking, they shared who they're becoming. They talked about their growth, their healing, their expansion. And in that space, they began attracting people who were also becoming. The room changed, the circle elevated, and with it, so did their results. They became addicted to growth, not outcome, because they understood that once you become the version of you who receives effortlessly, receiving is no longer the goal, it's the byproduct. They didn't need to force, beg, or manifest harder. They just needed to become. They let go of the timer. They threw away the imaginary clock they used to measure their progress against others. They stopped comparing journeys. They honored their own. They trusted that if they were willing to become the person who deserved the life they desired, the life would eventually have no choice but to meet them. This is why, in 2025, the millionaires aren't asking impatient questions. They're asking identity questions. They know that when you become the version of yourself that your dreams require, time bends in your favor. The moment you stop asking, "How long will it take?" and start asking, "Who do I need to become?" you stop chasing wealth and start becoming a magnet to it. So here's the truth. 2025 is not rewarding those who hustle blindly, beg for shortcuts, or chase validation. It's rewarding those who speak the frequency of wealth, who think like it's already theirs, and most of all, who become the version of themselves that money, miracles, and momentum are drawn to. Millionaires aren't waiting for external permission. They're not victims of time or circumstance. They're architects of energy. They understand that wealth doesn't arrive when the economy changes.